cassette player and the cassette. The audio cassette is my favorite analog format. I've loved this thing since I was a kid, obviously, and I'm just barely old enough to remember having been able to buy cassettes new for my cassette deck, which was a little crappy boombox that was made of plastic junk from the 90s and ran on D-cell batteries. Total junk. I don't have any of that anymore, but I've had cassette players throughout my life and I've been back and forth on listening to them with the ebb and flow of my budget. And that's the main thing. Lots of people have videos about how cool cassettes are. And lots of people have great videos about how good cassettes can sound, like Technology Connections or Techmoan or any of the number of guys. I'm not going to talk to you about that because that's not contributing anything new. I want to talk about rituals. Say, for instance, a humble coffee, a great drink. The ritual of making a cup of coffee is very well tried and true. You grind some beans, or you get some pre-ground beans, put them in your coffee maker, boil the water, brew the cup, and you enjoy it over whatever you choose to do, whether that be a nice relaxing morning or a hellish drive in the middle of the night. Both are good, and both are fantastic ways to enjoy coffee. The process of coffee is not for everybody. That's why machines for espresso exist. That's why Keurigs exist. There's any number of reasons why you wouldn't want to take the time to brew a cup of coffee. And even then, I use a French press. Some people use pour-overs. Most people just use the standard Mr. Coffee machine, and there's nothing wrong with that. I've used them plenty of times. All coffee is valid, except for instant coffee. I'm sorry, it's not good. You can't convince me it's good. Like 8-tracks. Cassettes are pretty dang cool. And with the access to lossless audio formats on Spotify and Apple Music, you can cut a damn good cassette just from your computer or your streaming service of choice on your phone or your iPod. And you might be thinking, what the hell? You have an iPod? Why are you listening to cassettes? It has a speaker, it has a headphone jack. This thing is Bluetooth and can connect to AirPods Pros. And in fact, it connects to those better than to my phone, which is recording this video. So why the hell would I ever use cassettes? This has my entire music library on it. Even the obscure crap that doesn't exist on streaming services or is region locked, and I don't feel like using a VPN and jumping through a lot of hoops. Trust me, that's a whole world you shouldn't even bother with. So why bother? Because a couple different things. Records. Everyone loves a good vinyl. Pop it out, put it on your record player, put the needle down, and enjoy your record until you have to flip it to side B, and then you enjoy the rest of it. It's also its own form of ritual, and there's a number of benefits to analog sound. For one, you can get a much higher response rate out of analog machines for a lot less money than is required for digital machines, although that's not true anymore. So vinyl, for that purpose, is extremely accessible for hi-fi setups, and you can get a pretty good record player. Doesn't need to be amazing, 120, 150 bucks, that will spit out a very, very clean signal with very minimal noise to a stereo setup or just straight to speakers if you don't feel like screwing around with it. Cassettes have the same advantages, although there's problems with cassettes. Nobody makes good tape heads anymore. The last good tape heads were made by Sony, and this is a particular unit of theirs from 1979, and it still sounds incredible. It does run a little bit slower than it's supposed to, but I'm not going to open it up because part of it is a game of seeing how long I can use this machine until I do have to open it up, because this runs on regular AA batteries or an AC wall adapter. It is a mono signal, so I don't get the stereo effect if I plug in headphones, but I don't really need that anyway, right? The whole point is the ritual. And that's the thing. It still sounds pretty good, and I still get a nice ritual out of it, and I get the benefits of analog sound. Plus, let's talk distractions. My phone is the biggest distraction in my life, and it probably is for you too. That's why Apple had an entire update, as well as Google, creating an entire focus system for notifications to simplify the ability to streamline what notifications you get at what time of day, or at all. And that's not an accident. But you could say the same thing about your iPod. The distraction really comes from all of your music. It's hard for me to stay committed when I'm at work, listening to my music, even on my iPod, to one album. Because just the act of changing the volume, or turn on the phone, or turn on the iPod, can be distracting. Changing the song is so easy, and I'm like, oh shoot, I remember this song. Oh, I remember this song. All the times I get reminded about other tracks, I find myself getting distracted and burnt out on listening to music way faster, because I'm not forcing myself to commit to one album. Take, for instance, this obscure nonsense by Clem, an album called Won'ts. It's a pretty good album. I would not listen to this album if I didn't have it on tape, because it's just not really for me. But it doesn't matter. It actually is pretty cool, and because I put it on my cassette player, I was able to engage with it in a whole new way. I was forced to sit down and think about every track as they came up, or just let it play and go do something else if I didn't. Or I could even fast forward, because unlike vinyl players, this fast forwards pretty easily. You gotta like press play and pause on this guy, but intelligent machines like later Walkmans have auto stop, auto skip, and auto reverse mechanisms that make going between tracks almost as easy, keyword being almost, as a standard digital audio player. And CDs have those benefits as well, but CDs skip and suck and are awful. But if you want to collect CDs, now's never been a better time, because you can get lossless files from CDs that are really, really good. And back in the day, that's pretty much how I listened to cassettes. I burned a cassette from a CD. That sounded like crap. And that's the thing. Garbage in, garbage out, and that applies to all audio formats. If you listen to your phone on the cheapest pair of headphones from Dollar General, of course it's going to sound bad. Any audio format's like that. However, even with these little guys, this guy's from 1979, its speaker sound is pretty good. Mostly mids and highs, very minimal bass, but that's to be expected. Plug in a pair of headphones or a pair of speakers and it still sounds pretty good. And that's the thing. AirPods Pros aren't the best for audio fidelity, but they're the bare minimum. And they have audio noise cancellation, which is pretty dang useful at a workplace environment or on an airplane. Never gonna get that out of a cassette player, but who's gonna bring a cassette player on an airplane? Don't answer that. Don't do it. Come on, man. What are you trying to prove? Who are you trying to prove it to? But bring a Walkman, because these things are portable and have batteries. It's a really cool format. Maintenance is a whole other story, because they've never been manufacturing them since like the mid-aughts. I think the last one was manufactured in 2010. Because of that, it can make finding an old one a little difficult that's still working. I got really lucky. $5, this guy doesn't really need any maintenance. However, not everybody's so lucky. I have plenty of tape machines that I've gotten over the years that are not so lucky. I have one that runs really fast but has a great output, and I have another one that runs really fuzzy but is mostly correct. And that's the problem. Maintaining these isn't for everybody, but it is for me, and I'm going to make some videos later describing how difficult or how easy it is for somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing to engage with this format. And we'll see how those pan out, but for now I just wanted to get a brief introduction to the format and say, give it a chance. It's cool, it's nice, and you can buy cool tapes of all kinds of records. Taylor Swift's new album just came out on cassette. Kid A, the re-release of the Radiohead album, just had a cassette set release that was super cool. And most of these are just Type 1 tapes that are gonna sound fine, but they'll sound pretty good if you put them in a good player. If you buy a new one, it's gonna sound bad. But if you buy an old one, it'll probably sound a lot better if it's maintained. And that's what we'll get into another time. For now, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you feel like it. Like it if you like it, dislike it if you don't. Thank you.